Gav, welcome. With your connections to the club, is this the dream job for you?
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's happened all very quickly, as you'll probably realise. It's been something that I've been looking at from afar. Obviously, I see the club and how it's moving and the results and whatnot. So, yeah, when it became available, it was great to get the call, and yeah, I'm certainly very privileged and honoured to be here.
You earned your stripes in non-league, great success at Brackley, promotion to the National League, stabilised in the National League, one of only two probably part-time clubs there as well. So you come into this with experience behind you. What are you expecting taking on a Football League club?
Yeah, listen, you always know there's going to be questions about the level, but when are you ever going to challenge yourself? I'd say that I'm a Shrewsbury Town supporter. Any supporter would give their right arm for this job, so I'm no different. As you rightly say there, I think when you look at the jobs I've had previously, the context of it, and you do a deep dive into it, you realise the success that we've had, and I think it's important to do that. And again, that the club are obviously going the right way about recruitment and obviously looking into those things, and that's what culminates in us being here. So I'm very proud, very privileged. But you're right in when you say, I've earned my stripes. I'm very positive about my capabilities of being at this level. It is a level I watch quite a lot and continuously. So I know what we're getting into. I know the players. Obviously, again, looking from afar and coming to watch games with my kids. But absolutely, yeah, it's a different level, but it's something I'm really confident about attacking.
Yeah, we've seen you here watching games with your family. So as we say, that connection's there. I know you've had offers from other clubs over the last few years as well, some good clubs in there. But being at Brackley, what have you learned from that experience?
I think first and foremost, just a great group of people, a brilliant community. I think the big thing for me was uniting, not just the hierarchy and then the players and the playing staff, but then the fans as well. Something that I'm hoping to do here. I think it's important to unite everybody. And I think with Brackley, yes, it was going into something that we had to develop on and off the pitch, and we did so. And I just think that, the success came from just a real unity. And yeah, we did have clubs come in. We did speak to a couple of clubs, but the truth is, I had an agreement with Brackley that I really loved it there. Great people. It was really hard and heart-wrenching to leave, but it was always going to be for a club that I wanted to be at and loved and felt was going to be a little bit life-changing. And whether this will be life-changing or not, it's probably, like you say, the dream job. But I think myself, Dave, and Jay, we've all got connections to the club. We love the club and its contents, and the people here, the fans, and we have a lot of connections. And I know there'll be a mixed bag about the appointment. That's no problem to me. We've got a lot of internal self-belief. I challenge anyone to turn the job down. So it was something that I was really proud to take. And as I say, we're more than well equipped for the job. We're ready to go, and it's been a privilege to have been at Brackley. It was a real honour and very flattering to have clubs come in and ask the question. But yeah, when this happened, it has happened very quickly, but it's one I couldn't turn down.
Why do you think Shrewsbury are in this relegation battle? What's your assessment?
I think there's going to be many reasons. I'm still assessing that at the moment, as you can appreciate. It's all sort of been done very quickly, so I'm still assessing that. I'm big on unity and community, and I believe that if you can unite the players and the management staff with the hierarchy and the fans, that for me is what I call the dream team. I get it, it's difficult. There's a lot of water gone under the bridge. Everybody's suffering because we're not winning games. But ultimately, whilst sort of rivals are laughing up and down the motorway at us all squabbling amongst each other, I want to try and get everybody unified. And it starts Saturday. It starts against Barnet. I'm excited to come in, hit the ground running. I know the players are already. I've worked with them this morning, and they are chomping at the bit. And first and foremost, look, what supporters want to see out there is just players who are willing to work hard, show desire, do a job and a half, and go above and beyond. So, as management staff, we've promised the players that we'll give them that, and that we expect the same in return. I've had a complete buy-in this morning. It's very difficult for the players. Manager goes out. No one likes to see anyone lose jobs, but they understand football, and they understand that we've got 19 wars to go to now. And that first and foremost, we'll just be bringing a real togetherness. Every single game, the players will be leaving everything out on the pitch, and then hopefully, we can come up with game strategies to help them and to succeed in getting those points.
Do you have your own identity in terms of how you go about playing? Michael, your predecessor, tinkered with a couple of formations. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think lends itself with the players you've got?
Yeah, I think we're still assessing the group. Again, it's coming into a new group and understanding the players. The squad for me is slightly imbalanced, but nothing that we can't solve, nothing that we can't work with between now and the end of the season. So look, we're having looked at the group from afar and now obviously very close up, we believe there's more than enough there for us to stay in the league. Because make no mistake, we're in a relegation fight, so we understand where we're at. I think it's important to acknowledge that, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's enough in there. And I just think it's going to bring a little bit of, like you say, our process. We have a process, we have game strategies, we don't play hope football. We play very strategically. The players all know what they'll be doing in and out of possession in all three phases of the pitch, and they're already taking on to that now. It's a lot of information for them to have taken in this morning, but they're all picking up on that already. By Saturday, they'll have a really good idea of it. We'll have a really good identity, and I think that's the biggest thing for me. We need to be difficult to beat. We need to have a structure. We need to have an idea, and something that the players would have heard a lot this morning. They need to be able to predict the future, and when you know what's coming, that's easier to do.
Yeah, two trusted lieutenants. Jamie, of course, you've worked with a lot in the past, and Dave Edwards coming in as well. Just tell us a bit more about those two.
Yeah, well, Jamie obviously is an ex-player for the club as an apprentice, but has worked with me now in football and business for 20 years. A real close confidant, and is exceptional at what he does. Brilliant coach, really personable, on a real good level with the players, and I think they've been impressed this morning as well. He's brilliant at what he does, and Dave, as everyone will know, we're really close friends and have been since our playing days here. So we've always remained close, and it just seemed like a bit of a no-brainer for me. Dave being so connected to the club, all of us really. This is about more than coming in and having a job. It's about success and legacy. It's about being able to offer our, I suppose, skill set to the football club, to the fans, and give something back. It's 20 years ago now. The chairman paid too much money for me, and I came here as a player. I want to reward that now, and this is something more. And it's easy to say, people come here for a living, I get it, and this is an occupation, but this is something more than that. This is three men who really want to give something back to this football club. And what that does is, and apologies if it comes across as arrogant, it's a belief in ourselves that we have a skill set to offer, because if we didn't feel like we had that, we wouldn't have answered the call. But first of all, it's a privilege to get the call. It's very flattering that the football club would deem us fit to be the manager, assistant manager and first team coach of this brilliant club. But then equally, there's a healthy arrogance there, knowing that we are good enough and we will be good enough. But we're going to need buy-in. We can't do it on our own. I'm going to need the hierarchy, which they've already promised me. They're going to help and support and give us everything they can within their means between now and the end of the season. And then management. We've had a really good meeting with the management staff. We've got their buy-in, and now I just need the fans. I need the fans on board. And listen, me more so than anyone. Being a player here, being a supporter here, I know what they can do. And I just want them to come out in their droves. And listen, I'm not saying it's going to be all sweetness and light between now and the end of the season, but I am tired of listening to the rivals up and down the motorway. Have their say and look from a distance how we're sort of all squabbling in different corners. And I want to put that to bed. Certainly for now, I understand there's a lot to address. There's a lot of stuff maybe that I don't even understand, but ultimately we really, really need to unite between now and the weekend, and everybody be the best version of ourselves with just loads of positivity, because it just showed you actually on the training ground tonight. We brought a real element of positivity, and the players have gone from being lower than a snake's belly to chomping at the bit. They can't wait to get into tomorrow. So, and that's no slight on the previous tenure. The previous management. It's run its course, and it's come to an end. But we now need to really breathe life into this group of players, the supporters, and the football club. So it's more than what goes on the field. I believe the culmination of what happens on the field will be the work of everyone in and around it. So that's what I'm calling for.
Clearly, there will be players out of favour that you're inheriting. One in particular, Sam Stubbs, has been quite a high-profile player that's been missing. What are your thoughts on that? Does everybody get a second chance?
Second chances is probably the wrong phrase, Nick. I think everybody starts on a level. I've had conversations with all players this morning who, undoubtedly will be feeling a little bit insecure. they want a little bit of reassurance from their manager. And if we're going to elevate them and put them in a good position, then I need to be having those close conversations with them. So yeah, I've had some really good conversations with some of the players this morning, with Stubbsy being one of them. Really like him, really charismatic and got a bit about him, as they say where I'm from. Yeah, so listen, there's no guarantees to anyone. Ultimately, I'm a big believer in that I don't pick the team. The team should pick itself. They have to get themselves into the team. So this isn't a personal thing, it's a professional thing. It'd be great if they can like me, but ultimately we've got a job to do for the football club. And my immediate feeling is there's some brilliant characters in there, and they'll all start on a level playing field. So to answer your question, everybody starts on a level playing field. Everybody's got a chance to impress. Everybody's got a chance to get in the team. This isn't personal. We've got one thing in mind, and that's to make sure that we retain the status, keep this football club where it is, and move on from there.
Finally, a couple of days left of the transfer window. Do you envisage that you'll be doing any more business?
Listen, it's tough, especially coming in at this late stage. Of course, I know signings have been made, and obviously I'm doing my due diligence around that. But look, we're always knocking on the door. I'm certainly bashing the door down, asking the question, and I think the situation is that people may need to go out before they come in. I'm not so sure, but we're trying to identify players. If we can, but I'm also looking at the players that I've got. I still believe that the group there have got enough to stay in the league. So I don't think there's any desperate panic. I don't think there's any desperate worry. I know a lot of supporters might be shouting at their screen right now, hearing that. But look, I think every club and every team and every manager are always going to be on a continuous search to improve the team and the squad. So I'm not going to patronise the players if they're watching this by saying, "Oh yeah, great." And if players become available that are good enough, of course we need to evolve. But where the group are at now, I'm still confident. So there'll be no excuses about not bringing anyone in.